Alright people, it's 10 o'clock in the night, but I wanted to talk about various things that are happening in boxing. So I looked at DAZN, and they had their featured middleweights. They talked about DAZN, the home of the middleweight, and they basically have a good roster of middleweights. And it was interesting listening to them speak about Demetrius Andrade and class him a certain way as a boxer who's like a savant, but not appreciated savant. Anyhow, they talked about Canelo and Gennady Golovkin and Jaime Munguia. I don't even know why they're mentioning Jaime Munguia in this mix. It feels so weird and premature, them doing that. But I do assume it's because most of the other super welterweights out there are with PBC. But even so, you know, there's a lot of things that I find paradoxical. Anyways, let's start off first of all talking about what's paradoxical. It's paradoxical that Golden Boy's Jaime Munguia, you know, that it seems almost as if Golden Boy, where possible, does not want to do business with PBC. It almost feels like that. I don't know how true it is, but it seems like that because Jaime Munguia, none of the PBC fighters talk about him to start with, and it's almost as if he is by himself. He's not in any other division, and now they're trying to get him up to middleweight. It's one of the strangest things in the world because Jaime Munguia actually beat a fighter who, I think he was a top-ranked fighter at once upon a time. I don't know if he's a BBC fighter now, but after that, you know, it's almost as if this is the only super welterweight in the whole wide world. And I find it's very strange how these guys are playing politics with boxing. You know, when I think about Terence Crawford, for example, and the PBC, you know, it's interesting how, again, Bob Arum and Top Rank, they have not announced their opponent. So they started with Gavaliauskas. And, of course, I severely condemned that fight. Again, we don't know if Kell Brook is going to be in the mix to even start with. I'm not hearing anything about Kell Brook. The name isn't even popped up on the equation. You know, Kell Brook attended the fight with Amir Khan and Terence Crawford. It's just really strange listening to Timothy Bradley try to make sense and to speak about why Errol Spence faced Terence Crawford, yet at the same time why he couldn't face Errol Spence. I mean, it just sounds really weird and whack listening to him contradict himself. And so this weirdness continues, you know, with you know, Timothy Bradley trying to somehow punk Errol Spence or try to be aggressive on Errol Spence and say he must face Terence Crawford, yet you couldn't find a way to face any of the PBC fighters when you were with Top Rank, and even now, you know, the situation seems to have not changed. Even though Terence Crawford is talking about some PBC fighters coming across and facing him at Top Rank, again, why do they have to cross to face you? Why can't you go across and face them? You know, it's a kind of elitist attitude Bob Arum has with Top Rank. And it's just one of those things where I'm looking at it and I know who the guilty parties are. Like, I know Bob Arum is the one to blame for this whole thing. It's not like Al Heyman's. Al Heyman has proven time and time again he will deal with anyone. Okay, because he's not a promoter. That's my point. Al Heyman's not a promoter, so it doesn't really matter. He's like a manager. That's what he does. And the fact that these guys either promote themselves or are with a promotional company means that the fighters have freedom to do whatever the hell they want to do, you know. But it just makes sense. You know, it's strange. You know, Bob Arum can let his fighters face his fighters. Golden Boy can let their fighters face their fighters. But when it comes to Al Heyman, allowing the fighters that he manages to face one another, it's all of a sudden is a problem, you know. And I find that so stupid and just hypocritical. And so, you know, the other thing I find stupid and hypocritical is how people are trying to come down on Eddie Hearn as a promoter. And, you know, he's doing bad for his fighters and stuff. No, Eddie Hearn wants to get the best fights possible. And his fighters want the best fights possible. And Eddie Hearn can only do what his fighters want. He can't do what they don't want. And I find Eddie Hearn is a hell of a promoter. And I think that a lot of people, again, are attacking Eddie Hearn because Eddie Hearn brings to the table something different, something new. You know, you look at the matchups on DAZN, they are incredible matchups, and I expect them to keep that going because I expect that Canelo will face Demetrius Andrade. I'm not backing off on this, okay? I expect Canelo to face Demetrius Andrade. I'll be straight with you guys, okay? Some other news that came up on Concrete Jungle, which I'm looking at here. Let me show you guys. Is that it says here, Floyd Mayweather announces Pacquiao a fight with Pacquiao in Saudi Arabia. Now, again, I don't know how authentic that is. I don't know if that's something that came up in 2017, 2018, or if it's a very recent one. But you can see that Floyd Mayweather's in talks to get MAYPAC2. So, whether it's an old video or a new video, it's hinting towards this MAYPAC2. And as you can see, we've been talking a lot about Manny Pacquiao, and we've been comparing him to Floyd Mayweather. It's very interesting. When I was looking at the PBC interview with Boom Boom Mancini and Deontay Wilder discussing Pacquiao's legacy and how it adds to his legacy, it's interesting that Boom Boom Mancini says this very same thing I've been saying, that he thinks that Pacquiao's career is greater than Floyd Mayweather's. But Floyd Mayweather is a better boxer than Pacquiao, and therefore the best of this era is Floyd Mayweather. Whereas I think the greatest person, not just of this era, but possibly of all time, is Manny Pacquiao. I mean, you just look at his accomplishments, and they're ridiculous for a guy like him. And you look at his dimensions, you look at where he came from, his weight class he came from. You look at the fact that what he does outside of just the simple boxing, and how boxing integrates into that, and how even with the time being spread on so many different things, he's still able to do what he does in boxing, and just his status throughout the Philippines, and even his effects on different people worldwide, and just how inspirational he is, and his story. And when you combine all of these things, you realize how great this guy really is. And he may possibly end up being the president of the Philippines, which would just show how great he is. And he probably would be the greatest boxer of all time if he becomes the president of the Philippines. So, I mean, Manny Pacquiao is proving time and time again that there's nothing that's impossible for us as people. And it's just to be hopeful and also aspire to want to inspire other people. He's an incredible guy, you know. By the way, for those people who are saying that, you know, Mayweather didn't beat Pacquiao and stuff, let me give you guys some advice, all right? The people who are making all kinds of excuses for Manny Pacquiao at this point in time, you're not helping him, okay? Let me tell you why. When you make excuses for why your fighter lost a fight, or even are in denial that the fighter even lost the fight, the fighter never makes the necessary adjustments they need to make to be able to win the next fight. And apparently, a MAYPAC2 is coming on the horizon next year. So if Pacquiao has to face Mayweather a second time, the best thing you guys could do as fans is acknowledge that Mayweather beat him the first time, and hope that Pacquiao can come back better the second time, and that he makes the necessary adjustments to get a W. Because if you're just saying Pacquiao, the way he is, was just fine. Pacquiao was just fine. Just his shoulder was the problem. But, you know, Pacquiao, as he is, would be Floyd Mayweather, he'll lose again. All right? He'll lose again. So if I were you guys as fans, all right, some people are saying Pacquiao should retire from boxing. Pacquiao will do what is best for Pacquiao. But at the end of the day, all right, this is the important thing. If there is to be a Mayweather Pacquiao 2, Pacquiao's going to have to make necessary adjustments, not only for the fight, but in the fight, to be able to beat a Floyd Mayweather. Okay? And I'm going to say this. I always said it, and I'll say it again. Floyd Mayweather is cut from a totally different cloth to all the guys in any era that has ever been. Okay? He's different. Okay? He's not a dude that you just talk simply about. He's different. He's on a totally different level. Okay? And there are only exceptional fighters like Pernell Whitaker and other guys like, you know, cut from that cloth, Mike McCallum and those kinds of guys, okay, who have that kind of all-round, not just all-round skill, but also all-round defensive skills. Okay, they used to talk about Wilfredo Benitez. He was a good defensive boxer, but he still used to get hit. He got hit quite a lot. Okay, but guys like Mike McCallum with solid defense. You know, James Toney, he cut his ass to face Mike McCallum. Mike McCallum was an excellent fighter. When we talk about really good defensive fighters, they've never been stopped in their careers. Okay, Pernell Whitaker, you could say he kind of got stopped, but he didn't really get stopped. He got an injury, right? But the point is, at the end of the day, the really good defensive fighters, they never get stopped in their entire career because their defense is on point. Okay? Their defense is something. Bernard Hopkins is a very good defensive fighter. The last fight he ever had in his career, he got stopped, right? But the point is, these really good defensive fighters, not only are they hard to hit, but more importantly, you're not going to ever stop them. They could be 100 years old, you're not going to stop them because their defense is always on point. And this is something that people don't understand, okay? Floyd Mayweather's a defensive fighter par excellence, okay? But he also has great offense and varied offense and innovative offense and adaptive, reflexible offense and defense. All right, he can do many, many things in that ring. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. He told you what makes him different to everybody else, but you never listened. His thing is he can adapt to whatever he has to face in that ring to get the W. And the sooner you guys understand that, is the more you will respect this guy for what he does in that ring. Those of you talking about he's a runner and, you know, he hugs and all kinds of shit. Listen, man. Listen. You need to learn to respect the sport you're in. Okay? There are many different styles in the sport you're in. And there are many different ways that fighters go about doing things. I have respect for every single fighter that steps in that square circle. But you're not going to last long in the sport if you don't have defense. And also on top of that, you're not going to last long in this sport if you do not appreciate and respect the fighters who have been very successful in this sport and what they do. And a lot of us as fans, we open our stupid asses and we talk out of our ass. We don't really talk. We've never thrown a punch in a professional ring. We've never really faced anybody in a professional or amateur bout, and we just spout shit. Okay? That's the truth. You know, we've been disrespectful to some guys who've done some really great things. Okay? Which we'll never do in our lives. So let's start to have some respect for these fighters, all of them. Okay? And as much as I may say things about certain fighters and what fights I don't want to see and all of that stuff, let me be honest with you. I've learned it's a very difficult sport. So let's try to be as respectful as possible. And when it comes to Floyd Mayweather, he's just a totally different. I was just watching some footage of him. He's a totally different cat to everybody else out there, man. You know, and you guys tout. You know what's so amazing to me? You guys tout some fighters who Floyd is actually doing the same things they're doing, but better than them. And you guys diss Floyd, but you praise these guys for the very same things you're dissing Floyd for. It's incredible. It's incredible, but hey, it is what it is. People are hypocrites. What can we say? You guys have a good one.